Oh, fuck you, girl. And fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you as well. And fuck you as well.
All opinions are those of the participants making them and are not an endorsement of any position, program, religion, or political affiliation. DFG's Corner is for information, observation, and entertainment. I ask that you comment, like, share, and subscribe. All opinions are those of the participants making them and are not an endorsement of any position, program, religion, or political affiliation. DFG's Corner is for information, observation, and entertainment. I ask that you comment, like, share, and subscribe.
people have for the next 100. Percent of our sisters are not married. 29% will never get married. 63% of our brothers are not married. There's a talk I give on the 5 biggest challenges Black people have for the next 100 years. The number one challenge is the existential crisis of the Black family. The existential crisis of the Black.
All opinions are those of the participants making them and are not an endorsement of any position, program, religion, or political affiliation. DFG's Corner is for information, observation, and entertainment. I ask that you comment, like, share, and subscribe. Good evening, everyone. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce. coming to you from 571, where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. So tonight is going to be a big, deep conversation that we're going to have, and it's going to talk about the Black family. I'm going to play a clip in a second here. Just let me pull it up, and it's going to cover what the Black family, things that happen within the Black family that that's happening today. This gentleman, I've heard of him before, but he has a very good way of putting things.
There's a talk I give on the phone.
And I'm gonna play it. Just let me share it for a second. Fair use. Fair use, fair use. And here we go.
Challenge is the existential crisis of the Black family. The existential crisis of the Black family. Marriage in our culture is down to 34%. When we were growing up, it was 85%. It's now down to 34%. 71% of our sisters are not married, 29% will never get married, 63% of our brothers are not married, 30% of them will never get married. There is no culture in the history of humankind that has risen to maximize their full human potential without family at the center of their culture. This only exists. This is an interesting but negative statistic. This phenomenon of the existential crisis of our family only exists among African American Black people. It does not exist on the continent or anywhere else in the diaspora. So there must be something in the water. We must fix this. It is a lot easier said than done because it is impacting our wealth. Quick statistics. For 350 years, household median income was dominated by white people. They were number one in this country. They no longer are number one, they're number three, and there's a reason for it. So, who has the highest household median wealth in America? It's East Indians, $104,000 a year. What's the marriage rate in the East Indian culture? 94%. Two are working. Who's number two? Chinese Asians. Household median income $110,000 a year, marriage rate close to 70%. Number three are white people. Household median income $88,000 a year. What's the marriage rate? Almost 50%. Down significantly. Number four are Hispanics. Household median income $61,000 a year, marriage rate close to 70%. We are at the bottom. Household median income, $55,000 a year. Marriage rate, 34%. And projected based on facts and statistics that if we do not fix this, because white folks ain't fixing this, our marriage rate will be in the low teens in the next 20 years. We must, this is an enormous challenge. That's a whole talk by itself on how do we fix it. It can be fixed, but we have to, first of all, understand that this is a problem. No one's talking about this problem. This is a huge problem. It's the number one problem in our culture. So we must fix it.
Wow.
There's a talk I give on the 5 biggest challenges.
That was an excellent breakdown on what we're looking at and the issues that we're having, especially, and it's partially our fault as Gen Xers, because everybody in the room tonight are Gen Xers. Miss Kim, cousin Nicole, Miss Summer, we're all Gen Xers, and our parents, growing up, our parents were married. Nicole, her parents are still married. They're still living. They've been married. How long have your parents been married, Nicole? I know you're busy, but I'm sure you can answer that.
My God, 59 years.
59 years. Now that's black love. So listening to that, to the gentleman speak. What did you get out of that, Miss Sutton? I know that you're married.
Oh, wow. I just think it has a lot to do with society and how, first of all, we are viewed as Black people today.
But
Oof.
who's viewing us? Why should we care about what white people think of us or any other race? Why do
Right.
we view
Well,
each other like that?
even just our own race, looking at our own selves in today's society. I mean, it's just we whether it's, I don't know, movies or music, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the Cosbys, I'm just going to use that as an example. Me growing up was the first time that I've seen Black people that actually were portrayed to be educated. They had a family, they were together, they worked through things together. And so I think that was like that played a big part in my mindset about, wanting that and goals and things of that nature. But I think in today's society, um, it, it, I don't, we as Black women are not viewed, in my opinion, as thank God for Barack and Michelle holding it down in the White House, shedding good light, but we don't always get good light on us. We are made to be, and I'm just speaking for myself personally. I know with roles and things that I have been afforded, I was the drug dealer or the cracked out mom or things of that nature, and but it's reflecting a lot on a lot of things that are going on in today's society. So I mean, it's just shedding more positive light on us, and even just us as looking at us as a people. We don't always get portrayed in a good light. So when we have someone who is married for a long time, someone who is educated, I think that is important to keep them up, keep them, keep the light shown on them to show that our kids that you can in fact be a president, you can be a doctor, you can be, a lawyer. You don't have to be the video vixen. You don't have to just be, on the street selling drugs. You don't have to, so it's a lot of uplifting our own people and shedding light and exposing them to a lot of positive things to let them know that they can make it. They can do it. I mean, we are no different from anyone else. We just get portrayed differently a lot of times. So,
Asking that, let me ask you a question. And I understand the thing about the Cosby Show because um, in the '80s when it first came out, a lot of us wouldn't believe that it would work because most of us hadn't seen, like you said, the highly educated dad's a doctor, mom's a lawyer. They've been together. They're not screaming at each other. They're not. It wasn't. In good times they were married. James and Florida were married, but they were always struggling.
mhm, right.
So we're used to seeing that struggle love, and we're used to seeing that. So in your wedding, in your matrimony, how did you feel about um what the black love is today that you probably didn't see when you were growing up on a consistent basis outside of TV?
Well, I had a very positive upbringing, even though my dad was in the military and he kind of traveled a lot. Um, he and my mom have been married for about, I think they're going on 49 years this August coming up. And I was with my dad. I'm the oldest. I have two younger brothers, but I am the first child and I saw a lot of struggle, but I didn't. I don't know how to explain it. So growing up in military housing, I remember not like dad having speakers and he had a sound system, but they were on cinder blocks. And we had a couch and we did not have much, but we were happy. And then as we progressed as a family, when my brothers came and my father slowly, I was there for that slow climb. So I saw that. Um, I saw the struggle, but I also saw them wanting a better way for their children. So I was there. My youngest brother, he's a little bit more, I don't know how to explain it. He expects things to be this way. There is no struggle. You go to college, you get your job. He's more of a modern way of thinking, and I mean, not a modern way of thinking. I'm trying to find the words to explain it, but he is more of a this is to be expected. Whereas we were like, okay, we got to work to get this. He has that mind frame as well, but it's the climb per se is not his way of thinking is not the way it was for me. So I think I
Okay.
saw more. So
And that's understandable. My parents were married. They split up, but they were back and forth. They were back and forth until my father passed. He was married. He was 17 and she was 19 when they got married. He was 18 and my mother was 20 when I came along. So I've always knew I always knew people being married. Marriage was something that was practiced, but there were a whole lot of things that happened during the 70s, 80s, and in the 90s that changed the definition of marriage, and not only marriage but family. Um, Ms. Kim and I had a conversation one time, and we were talking about how similar our families were in the contemporary, and almost everybody in this group tonight has, people got married back then. In 1960, it was, the stat said that 80% of the Black community were married. But were those marriages always good? We can't say we weren't there most of the time, but we understood that some of the problems that we're having today that they had back then. But saying that, people stayed together, good, bad, indifferent. They were all about their business. Today, it's not necessarily about going through stuff because we're in a throwaway society. That's kind of why we're in the situation we're in now. Um, he snores, leave. She leave her sock on the floor, leave. You know, I wanted eggs and she wanted bacon. We fight, leave. And things have become so easier to walk away that when we were more financially dependent on each other, and I say that, and I say that not to say that, especially in Black households, both parents worked. From far as I can know, my great grandmother had a job, grandmother had a job, my mother had a job. You know, everybody had to work because we weren't making as much as we would have liked to make, but we made do. And like you said, you might have been considered um, poor. I would say y'all were broke, but y'all wasn't poor because poor is a mentality. Poor is a mentality. You can have no money and still not be poor. You cannot have resources and still not be poor. Poor keeps you, and we've developed over the last 40, 50 years a poverty mindset. And what does a poverty mindset? Does that mean you have no money? No. It means that you're looking at things from the I gotta look good special. Everybody has to look good, and that's been a big thing in our you know we don't want we don't want people to know our business. But especially today, everybody is going to know your business because everybody put their business out on the street. And family, things that were in families are now being on the internet. And we look at it, we laugh, we judge, we saying, that father was a piece of crap, that mother was a piece of crap. But if you really, really think about it, y'all know somebody that went through that back in the day, but that wasn't really talked about. Family was, everybody was about family, and we did family things. Um, you got to remember that as we all, America was very mobile back in the early 1900s. My great uncle Richard moved um, from Philadelphia to Los Angeles. He took his sister Naomi, and they moved to California. My great grandfather stayed he moved to New York City. A few of the other siblings, like Nicole's great grandfather, stayed in Philadelphia. So there was movement, but then as those generations went down in generations, people spread farther apart to where, you have relatives, but I'm gonna say this, and this might be controversial, it might be kind of messed up, but all relatives ain't family. And you're not always related to your family. That's what it comes to these days, because there's some of us that share DNA, but that's about it. You know, we got family members that wouldn't pee on us if we was on fire, and that's the only thing they had to do. They wouldn't even do that. But we're related. And that's one of those things that that's kind of broken our families, because we don't have that cohesiveness, because we don't see the need, because everybody's doing their own thing. Um, Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl, she's here tonight, one of my co-hosts. Love her to death, and also big time dad, Miss Sandrine, always ready, always willing, always able. Chocolate Pearl, you know how we grew up, and you know how things went. So what is your take on the state of the Black family today?
Hey, y'all. Good to see y'all. Um, okay, I'm gonna just put it out here. We got punk families. And what I mean by that is a lot of softness in the development of how we raise these children. I've always said before that this generation complains about is insulted, complains about everything and insulted by everything, but scared of nothing, in a sense. But when it comes down to how we raise our children, we allow our children to dictate what their lives should be as soon as they come out. And we don't raise them like they raised us back in the day. And I was hearing you talk about how uh, couples stay together because of finances. Yeah, we depended on each other back then. Um, and if you didn't have it, that's when the man felt that he wasn't a man, so he left. Um, Here it is that women today are so much into the head of the household role that they're so independent that I think that's the reason why our society is the way it is, because us women decide we want to make sure that we're the head of the household and let everybody know that we're the head of the household. I don't care what you got between your legs. Us women are the head of the household, and then but we're sitting there complaining about how we raise our boys and how we raise our girls. And that's how I feel. And this is just the opinion of Tawana, the chocolate pearl, no one else. I just feel that I see this going on a regular basis with a lot of the uh, younger generations, how they're raising their children. and they feel that their children are at no fault. They can do something bad right there in your face and you still say they're not at fault. It's just, back then we grew up, DFG, we grew up where the village raised us, not just our parents. The village felt that they was responsible for us. And that could be a reason why that could be a reason why we are where I'll get it out. We are where we are at now because of we grew up with village. Today's society, you don't grow up with a village. They don't even know what a village is. The people who go down the wrong way, their village that they create is a gang. But even with that gang, they stick together. They stand strong together. This new generation doesn't stand strong together. If they catch an attitude, they out. They don't want to hold a relationship. They'll get married one day, and 2 weeks later, they in divorce court. Like you said, over a piece of bacon. It's with this generation is soft. They don't know how to stand strong. They don't know how to try to work it out. I'm not saying that you're supposed to stay with somebody that's abusing you. Heck no. But I'm talking about if somebody's upset with you because you drank up all the milk and didn't replace it, and then you're arguing about it, the next thing you know, y'all divorced over some milk.
But that's what happens. People don't have that. People don't have that staying power, and the state makes it easy for us to break our commitments. Commitments is not something that's talked about. The only thing you're supposed to be committed to paying those doggone student loans. That's the only thing you should be committed to. Everything else, nah. Marriage, children are accessories. Marriage is something to do because
yes. Nowadays, something to do.
People want to get married
because they want to have that big wedding, that big party. They want to show off how much they got at that time. When I got married the first time, and I stayed married for 23 years. And when I got married the first time, I did it on a budget. I did it on the budget because I kept telling people, this is just one day. I have my entire life to be with this person. And, we got bills. We got other things to do. We can't just spend it on one day trying to show off. I mean, I'm going to use this as an example. Look at these celebrities out here. Lavish weddings, theme weddings, yeah, not just celebrities, but I'm just using that because I know a lot of people see these particular weddings being displayed where I'm going to use Portia Williams as an example. She had like 3 weddings in just to one guy because of the culture and how much, and the money that they spent, and they didn't even stay married, not even 2 years. And they give up really quick. I mean, granted, I think she should have gotten, divorced, but she should have at least got to know that person. But that's a whole nother topic. But what I'm saying
is the thing, and I used to say back when I was in college, I said, if men stuck to their wives like they stuck to their favorite sports team, they probably pick a lot better. If women,
yeah,
if women,
now we pick, a lot of the people pick their mates based on, like you said, their social status or their financial status. Yeah, that financial status is, a long history of that. But now it's definitely true 100% financial status to where if you ain't got a certain credit score and a certain bank account amount, they don't even want to date you.
Yeah, and I was going to say about the women, about women, if women would choose their men like they choose their hairdresser, I think y'all have a better track record. Because one thing I know about, especially sisters, y'all don't just let anybody up in your hair.
That's true. That's true.
If somebody tells me something different, if somebody can correct me, but y'all don't just let anybody get up in your hair.
No, you don't.
So, y'all need to vet those men like you vet the hairdresser. Cause y'all want references. Y'all be like, y'all hear word of mouth, but then y'all wanna see their portfolio and see how many complaints they got. It's like she ain't touching my hair. So y'all don't even do that for babysitters. Y'all
But
like
do you know? But do you know that they do all this search of their financial records, but they won't search if he's a criminal or if he's a child abuser, if he's a woman abuser, or if she's,
that's that's exciting to them. You know how it is. We grew up around it. We grew up around it. Let me go to Miss Andrine for a second. Miss Andrine, how long have your parents been married?
They have been married. Oh my goodness. Probably at least, how old am I? At least 50 years. Well, yeah, I think at least as long as I've been around.
So, I mean, what was their secret to them? And did you look at your parents as a standard for marriage?
Ugh, that's hard. I don't know if there is a secret. I think looking at it before I got older, I think it was just I tend to think that's why I just picked. I think it was just like it was supposed to be. Like it I don't know, it was just like a thing. But now looking at it, I realize how much work it entails, I think, to commit. And I feel like after a certain time, it's almost like you're stuck out of, I don't know, some type of obligation. So I think marriage is such a different animal like right now because I just think it's like different for me. And I think women back then, I think it was like expected and you stayed and you do what you needed to do. But I think now in the time of where there's definitely more like freedom and like you said, more, I don't know what it is. I just think it's different. I think men are different and women are different. I think I'm not gonna blame it all just on the women being able to handle it.
No, no, oh, no, I didn't even. I trust me, I didn't even say it like that, and I understand. But you said something very interesting that I want to touch on for a second. You
Okay.
said it takes work, and going back to what Chocolate Pearl was saying, how these kids are soft. They'll spend they'll spend all their time on that computer. They'll spend all that time on social media, but they won't put in the work for their relationship to improve it.
Fact, fact.
So if you're not working, you're not building. You're not building, you're not getting the results you want. And then that's what happens. You wind up quitting. Go ahead, Andrew. You was about to say something.
I think I agree with that. And I think what it is I think it's the level of maturity and the level of struggle that it's somewhere in between what Chocolate Pearl is saying and what you just shared. It's like they are sort of kind of raised soft. It's like that instant gratification. So you don't build that capacity to like kind of manage the work it takes to sustain a relationship. Or
It
you don't necessarily have that. I don't even know if it's a desire, but I just think, it's a little bit different. So I think it's a complicated thing, but I don't think the world is the same world it used to be when my parents got together and got married. And I think nowadays it's a lot of instant gratification and it's a lot of not wanting to put in the effort. And I think it's on both people's part. And I think it's also more of us looking for compatibility, even though I like when I hear about friends from different culture and Indian culture, how their marriages are just arranged and they kind of work. But I think that's also a cultural piece. And I think as a whole, American culture, Black culture, society as a whole is just looks at relationships so different where people don't necessarily put in the effort or want to.
you
Well,
said
when you said that, sorry, when you said that, it's just the fact that the different cultures they didn't believe in instant or not instant. They didn't believe in not working things out. They stuck in there. So when they had arranged marriages, they knew that that was it. This is what you got. There wasn't no divorce situation. Today, like he said earlier, today is the fact that you have a microwavable relationship.
Right.
It's, you put it in there and you press the button and it heats up really quick. But guess what? If you don't eat it real quick, it goes cold
I agree.
because you work at it. But when you heat it up on the stove, what happens? It stays hot a little longer. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? You have to put some work in it. The instant world is not working in this society today, but this is the way the world is going towards the instant situation. Nobody, like you said, because I tell people all the time, marriage is a job. Marriage is a job. You have to keep working at it to keep it going. You can't just get married and then just stop doing stuff. You have to work at it.
Well,
And they don't do
hell,
that now.
relationships in general are work,
Yeah.
whether it's familial, whether it's platonic, whether it's camaraderie, whether it's relationship, whether it's marriage. You got to work. You got to work to stay positive, because for the life of me, we've known people for our whole lives, but if it's one sided, we get tired of it. If we're
Yeah.
doing all the work and they're receiving all the benefit without reciprocation, that's just as bad as a bad marriage. But yet some of us still stay. We don't quit our friends like that most of the time. I want to kick it over to Big Al. What's going on, Big Al? Missed you last week.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. So I just got in. I'm trying to get caught up on the subject. And what's the topic?
The subject tonight is the Black family. How do we fix it? So you're old school, you're seasoned. Um, when people, your parents and you and your generation, when y'all got married, y'all tended to stay married. Today we were talking about how people are not willing to put in the work or to work through situations to build together. Everybody wants a finished product. Guys want the girl that has that's the finished product and ready for him, and girls want the guy that's not struggling, not building something that they want already built, so they don't have to do the work. And when it's time to require to do work, they said, "Well, I just go get somebody else." And
Right,
and those are the type of relationships that we're having today.
right. And I think in my parents' case, they were married 57 years and before my dad transitioned to heaven. But they were committed. I think one of the big differences today, I heard somebody mention the microwave generation, but I think there are a lot more women in the workplace. So they're exposed to a lot more and they have more options. Back in my parents' generation and beginning of my generation, women traditionally stayed home and were homemakers, and they did not, in large number, work in the work environment. But those traditional roles have changed, and because there are more women in the work force now, they're earning money, so they are not dependent on husbands to be able to take care of them, and they're exposed to other men who may show affection and some other things that they're not getting at home. And it causes both men and women to, you know, I guess, pick up
Got
other
it.
options, or they're not as committed. They're more willing to just say, hey, forget it. I see some greener grass on the other side, and there's a temptation to go to the other side, if that makes sense.
You know why the grass is greener, Big Al? Because they use a better grade of fertilizer.
That's a good one.
Miss Kim, I know you've had some work done, and I don't know, can you talk tonight?
Yes.
How long were your parents married? Your parents are your parents were married a long time also.
Yes, until they transitioned 40 plus years.
And how did you when you thought about getting married, did you look at them as the standard on what marriage looks like?
Yes, I definitely did because with my parents, I knew that I wouldn't be able to do exactly like my parents did because my dad owned his own business and my mom did not have to work. So she stayed home. She cooked 3 meals a day. She kept the house. My dad did not have to want for anything. So that's kind of how I learned to be a wife, to take care of my husband. Um, they did things together. They never left each other out. They had their separate things they did, but they also came together when like they both was in clubs. My dad was in the Elks. My mom was a stable at. So they would go to their separate meetings, but when they would have events, they went together. They vacationed together. They were member of separate church, but they never went separately. They went together. So I saw a lot of that in my household. Um, so I kind of idolized the role that my mom played as a wife, not only as a wife to my dad, but she was his best friend. They would sit at the dinner table and in the mornings and laugh. I could hear them in my room. They laughing and talking. Everything wasn't perfect, but they had their ups and downs, but they always knew how to come together. So that's kind of how I saw marriage.
And that's excellent. That's an excellent way to put things because a lot of times we don't. A lot of us, the excuse our kids give us, and I don't mean our kids personally, but the generations after us is that they didn't see that, and they would have a point. They didn't see that. They might have saw that grandparents, but
Right.
by the time they got to a certain age, the grandparents were too old, and they only saw them one way. Their parents, most of the parents were married between 7 and 10 years, and then there was a stepmama, stepdaddy, and now marriages in our community at least less last than 10 years, less than 5 years actually. Um, what do you think we can do to kind of try to fix that? If not fix it, at least mitigate those awful numbers that we're experiencing in our community.
Like some of the others said, do the work. If it takes going to counseling, get an outside mediator, talk about it, communicate, um, spend more time together. Um, it's just all about the work. It's hard work. It's just like I believe somebody said, it's like a job. And you can't, and I'm through getting older, I'm learning these things myself to put in the work. Don't give up easily, whether it's a marriage or a relationship. Put that work in. Let that person know, hey, I'm here for you, whether you going through a bad time. I'm here for you. Let that person know. Don't let that spouse or significant other feel like you're leaving them out, that you're including them. So basically, like I said, just do the work and just have that togetherness and
And that
stop leaving one another out. Be involved together. You can have your outside interests separate, but always come back together as one.
no, that's excellent. DJ Dabs, are you there? Can you holler at your boy?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. How long were your parents married? You got to
My
speak a
parents
little
were
loud. I
married
can't hear
over
you.
40 years.
40 years?
Yeah. I can't have it on if you have it.
So, so did you look at your parents as standard, or did you look at them as that's something that can never happen again?
I looked at my parents as very standard. They were really, they were really together people. Our family was. I had a big family, so there's a lot of us. My mom mostly didn't work. She did work a few years that I remember, but mostly she was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was in the Marine Corps, so he was gone quite a bit. We moved between Washington, California, and Camp Lejeune, I know one time, but most of the time it was back and forth between California every, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. One child was born in California, one child was born in Washington, one child was born in California, one child was born in Washington. So it was back and forth, I know, between there for a few years. But my all the way until, till they both passed, my mom passed, no, my dad passed. And 2 months later, my mom decided she was gonna go too. But yeah, they really they weren't very, they weren't real strict parents, but they were very concerned parents. So they made sure we did, most of us did the right thing. There was a couple of knuckleheads in the family, but make sure the rest of us, sometimes I like to tell people that, part of it is where I grew up, but part of it was how I grew up, that we're kind of shelter family because we didn't do a lot of, crazy stuff. People say we did this and that. I said, I don't know anything about that. I know my parents, were, hey, I was in 8th grade. If I want to go out and do a little party with my friends and you go out and do a party with your friends, just come back tonight and make sure don't get into no trouble. That's pretty much how it was. So my parents was really together.
And but that's what I'm saying. So it's across the board that everybody on tonight has seen an example of a long lasting, they fought sometimes, but
Yeah.
they loved each other, and they treated their relationship as a thing to do together. It wasn't just
Right.
something to do. So how do we get back to that? We got one thing we got to do. We got to stop. We as in Gen X and baby boomers have got to stop treating the millennials and Gen Zers like they ain't got no like they ain't got no sense. Because if they don't got no sense, we didn't give it to them. If they acting the way they act, it's because we didn't step in when we needed. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi. I mean, all we can do really is make suggestions. I think that we're all people are in different headspaces and stuff like that, and everybody's not open to make changes. The decisions that we make today don't affect us today. They affect generations past when we're even going to be on this earth. And one of the things that other cultures that we've talked about with those arranged marriages, the families are involved in who their children date, and it's for a reason. I don't know how much we get involved with who our sons and daughters date. I think a lot we're just dating kind of randomly, hoping for the best and not getting involved. I think we have to get more involved and saying, you know what? If we really have a responsibility, or if we really want to help, we have a responsibility. So who is that you're dating? Who are their parents? What does their home life look like? What do their values look like? What did they come from? These are questions that don't get asked. I'm just being honest.
Yes, I agree. However, it's because a lot of those people that do that don't ask those questions, they kind of don't want to know the answer.
Right. Oh, there you go.
Because once you know something, it's incumbent on you to do something about it. So if you don't know, you can't say that I can that it's one of those things that one thing I learned with my oldest girl when he was growing up, I tried to, I went from directive, telling him what to do, to advising him, telling him, giving him recommendations. Um, when you make sure, and you tell, I told my nephews this, well, only a couple of them listened, but I said, the average act of copulation, and I talked about this about a couple of years ago on one of my shows. Average act of copulation when a baby is conceived is about 33 seconds. I said, do you want to spend 18 plus years for 33 seconds? And if you do, you should marry them, because if you marry before you carry, it at least you committed to something. A lot of times people just want to have fun, and they get reckless about it. And a baby ain't the worst thing from unprotected copulation. The baby definitely ain't the worst thing that can happen. There's a whole lot of other things that can happen. And like you said, I agree. Families should be involved. If they're dating somebody and you say, "Can I meet their parents?" If they say no, say why not? So because you're not you don't they don't marry that person. They marry their family. Just like whoever they're marrying marries y'all too, or us. They got to be out. They all part of the family. So we gotta. I agree with you, Nicole. You make 100% sense. That may be a way to do that. Not to be all in a business like helicopter parents, but to be in an advisory role, and to get your seed to see that, look, I understand that this person gives you the tingles. However, the tingles is not going to get you through a lifetime with a partner. And I just want to bring up Apple. I know she was running late. She told me yesterday she was going to be running late. I'm glad that she was able to make it. What's going on, Miss Apple?
Hey everybody, I'm just sitting back listening to everything. Like you said, I got on late. I was in a meeting, but this is a good conversation that needs to be had. And as far as like getting involved in your children's as far as relationships, and I totally agree with that. I don't think you should meddle, but I think you should definitely know the people that your children are involved with, because ultimately you're going to have to deal with these people too. If a baby or marriage or any kind of long-term relationship comes from it. So I totally agree with Nicole that we as parents, we have to step up and get to know children's significant others, and kind of guide them in choosing correctly, because you don't want to get stuck with crazy in-laws. And
Somebody with a tattoo on their face?
and basically I'm speaking from experience.
Uh, People don't worry about that. That was a little inside joke. I apologize. I
I'm over
apologize.
here rolling too.
Go ahead, Miss Kim.
No, I just was going to add to that. When I was a teenager, I couldn't date unless my mom, because I'm from the South, unless my parents know their parents. And I mean, they had to know the family. They would not let me go out with just anybody. And even when my girls was in high school and getting ready for the prom or going out, I did the same thing. I asked, well, who your mama them is? Do I know them? And that's kind of how I vetted some of the guys that my daughter dated, because my parents did it to me.
And that's a way. Um, and then I do have a question for you, Miss Kim.
Yes.
What is the line between being an advisor and meddling? Apple said something about not meddling. What's that? Where do you draw the line at?
Um, when they're younger, I'm basically younger or either now they're young adults. I kind of advise them, talk to them, but I will let them know I'm not trying to run your life, but I'm just telling you from my own experience, X, Y, and Z. So just because I have girls, so just talking to them, sitting them down, having that conversation, but not putting the pressure on them. Because if you keep hounding them, they're going to do what they want to do. Because I know one of mine is very rebellious. So if I pound stuff in her, she going to go the opposite direction of what I want to do. But if I'm sitting to her like woman to woman, let's have this conversation. She'll act like she's not listening, but she's listening to me. So it's just the relationship type of relationship you have with your children. And they'll know what mama only looking out for my best interest, other than my mama trying to run my life.
Yeah, that's a hard line to take. Big
Yeah.
Al, you're a dad and you've got married children. How would and being in the military at that, so you basically had the trifecta. Did you meddle or did you advise your children when they were dating and getting married?
I was more of an advisor, and because you can't really choose who your children love. So I just wanted to give them fatherly advice. I have two daughters, and they made good choices. They picked men who were like their dad, who had a lot of my characteristics, and my daughters picked, my sons picked wives who had a lot of the characteristics of their mom. So thus far of four, they've all been in long-term marriages and done well. But if they ran into difficulty, my daughters would always come to me and ask for advice. So, Dad, from a man's perspective, what do you think about this? So I always provided advice, but I never wanted to meddle.
Miss Summer?
Hey, I just wanted to piggyback off of what the gentleman just said. I think I was respected, well, not just because of who I was and how I carried myself, but because my father had a very big role in my life. He was very overprotective, but he always made his presence known. So there was no trying to get over on me. He was going to, he shook the gentleman's hand. He, made his presence very, very known. And in turn, I think I was treated, a little, you had to think before you tried something with me because you knew you would have to answer to my dad. So I think family presence in that aspect is important.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, especially girls. Your dad will never be mad at you unless you do something extremely stupid, but you don't want to disappoint your dad. That was the bottom line. Because they say, I'd rather you be mad at me than be disappointed with me. Because that means I failed at something that, when they're mad goes away. Disappointment takes a long time to get rid of. And that's, and as parents, we've all been disappointed in something that our children have done. But it wasn't like a constant thing, because if they don't respect you, they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. If you didn't respect your people, you wouldn't even think about what they say, or what you did, or even care. But the fact that, being a parent and being parented, you realize that, you went from being a hard head to, oh, now this is what my parents was telling me. And that's sometimes it takes a little while longer for kids for us. It happened with us, it happened with our children, it happened to their children, to understand what the parent was trying to tell you. And that's, a lot of times, and especially in our community, I can't talk about white folks because I don't, you only see what you see on TV. But we all have similar upbringings to where we had corporal punishment, we had punishments, we had, and it was do as I say because I said so. And a lot of us said, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to talk to our children. And not to say that spanking or corporal punishment was not on the table, but we did let them know it's a weapon. And if I have to use it, I will. And I'm not afraid to use it, but I'd rather talk to you. We don't, we as a society, Black people, we don't really talk conflict resolution, problem solving, critical thinking. Um, I was never taught. I had to learn about finance stuff the hard way. I call it discovery learning. You know, you could call it whatever you want. I call it discovery learning because I'll do something out of ignorance and I get burned. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But not knowing something doesn't mean the circumstance is not going to happen to you. So I'm gonna this has been a pretty deep show. I was expecting some more people, but I guess things happen, Um, I'm gonna do a little quick monologue and then ask my co-host to say something, and then we're gonna close it out. I'm sounding all military like I used to. um, but all in all, the Black family is in trouble. We have to. We're bleeding people. We're bleeding our culture. We don't. I mean, a lot of lately, just the trash stuff has been showing, and we've been kind of buying into it. We've been consuming it. We need to realize that it's a plan to make us look like that, to have us at each other's throat, to mean mug ourselves, so we don't realize what society is doing and trying to marginalize us more than we already are. Um, it's got to start at the grassroots. We can't expect, we can't expect former President Obama and his wife to be the standard. We have to bring ourselves up and become that living epistle. That's biblical, by the way, so that when you're read, you know they know what they're reading. Because a lot of times we don't do that, and we don't get, we don't. We're so busy with our own stuff that we're not paying attention to our children. And I'm going to say this, and y'all can hate me or not, but we're responsible for our children until we're in the ground. We are responsible. We may not pay all their bills. We may not, cover all their owies, but we're responsible because we are the first teachers. If we teach them trash, they're gonna be trash. If we teach them right and they go wrong when they're adults, it's partially our fault, but it's not. I mean, but once they know right from wrong and understand consequences, actions have consequences, that's all you can do. You just got to keep advising, talking to them, teaching, coaching, mentoring them to say, hey, stay on the path. It's hard. People ain't gonna like you. You're gonna lose people. But in the end, you can look yourself in the mirror, and that's the most important thing. Am I making a contribution to my family? And I'm going to end it on that. Chuck the Pearl, you got anything before we punch out?
She took off away for a little bit.
You fell asleep?
Yeah, she's getting her ties together.
Okay. Well, you can speak for DJ Dabs.
All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to the show. It was good. Once again, it went kind of fast tonight. Well, we got good conversation. Things move fast.
Definitely. Definitely, I agree. Miss Apple?
Once again, I would like to thank everybody for coming on, and sorry for being late again. This was a very important topic because the Black family is declining, and we as the elders, and I can't believe I'm saying this now that we're the elders, we do have to instill in our children and our grandchildren that keeping the family unit together is important. And it may look different in each family, but the unit in itself, we have to break the stereotypes that Black men don't stay and that the Black family doesn't exist. And we have to just bring it back to those core values, you know. And that's about it. Thank you guys again.
And thank you. I want to thank everybody that comes on, Cousin Nicole, Miss Andrine, Miss Kim, Miss Summer, Big Al, DJ Dabs, those out there in TikTok land, Miss Nikki on YouTube, the Mad Hat. I know if he's not there, he's there and spinning it. Those in TikTok land, those in Instagram land, Facebook land. I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. See us next week. We always come with the heat, and we always look for good conversation. And maybe if you're lucky, you might learn something. I'm gonna say good night.